Do you believe reggae music is still profitable for producers, not artists? Because I know artists could tour, but for reggae producers, do you think reggae music is still profitable? Not deep old catalogs,
Yes.
modern day made music.
I think for the producers that are business people, it's profitable because there are multiple ways to monetize. For the vast majority, no, it's not profitable. And this is why it's so critical for you to be a student. If you're in reggae music right now, you have to become a student. Um, and let's be clear for those who are not familiar. When we talk about producer, generally in the reggae industry, we're talking about a composer who's actually building the beat. So there's a publishing interest. A producer doesn't necessarily have to be a beat maker. We want to distinguish those two.
Financer.
Yeah, a producer can be a financer, that's an executive producer. A producer can be someone who's putting the pieces together, working with an executive producer who hires producers. So there are different configurations. A producer usually gets a percentage of points. That was how the industry was set up. So you would get up to a 3% percentage of the song that you would get to eat a royalty off of the master recording. That was how producers generally were paid because they weren't necessarily the composer of the song. They were the person that was putting together. Good example of an executive producer would be a Puff Daddy working with Hit Squad or, which is a group, a production company that is actually making the beats, but Puff Daddy is saying, I want to use this, I want to use that, or he's he's curating the final song experience. So in reggae music, I want to be clear, a lot of time when we're talking about producers, we're talking about the man that build the rhythm, and that means that you're also a composer, meaning that you also have a share of publishing royalties that you can eat from. So the producers who are business savvy, they are leveraging their catalogs, they're getting sync rights, they're putting their music in video game, they're doing things that cause their releases to be profitable. The producers that are just building a rhythm, putting it on a distro kid, TuneCore, putting up a track a week, when them look at the revenue, is a love thing. You know what I mean? It's not, and I know because I represent producers, and this is something that I'm very passionate about in terms of reggae music because the vast majority of our industry is not profitable. Most of our industry is working on a volunteer for the love basis. You know what I mean? There's no industry that have more love than reggae music. That's from the promoters who are not making money right now. That's from the artists. We give thanks for the sound system culture, which is the backbone of our industry. Dub plate money is how most of our artists survive in this business. But the producers don't eat from that. And I think we're going to have to modernize that whole dub plate industry. That's another thing I'm passionate about, to standardize so that we can release some of these classic anthem dubs, just like Puff Daddy. If you look at what DJ Khaled is doing, he took dub plate culture. Puff Daddy took dub plate culture and they made a multi-billion-dollar business. What they do? Take old rhythm, vice new artists on the old rhythm, they shout out the producer upon the new rhythm, and they put it on the road. That's a dub plate. We've been doing that, but guess what? They're licensing that old rhythm. They're licensing the lyrics so that they can put it on an album and put it to the world. In reggae, we have not done that.
Why do you think reggae is unique compared to other genres in regards to that love comes before the business?
Because reggae is a way of life. Reggae is in our DNA. Reggae is the African drum being made manifest and is a heartbeat, So we are unique. And then the other thing is that reggae was born out of struggle and to some extent trauma. The traumatized in the city, the wailing, ones. So reggae, we wear it on our sleeve. We're very emotional with it. We make decisions emotionally in the reggae industry. And we don't really, it was a hustling too. We also had a long period of reggae where we were using it to launder money from other aspects. So we didn't really have to look at the business model seriously. So the golden era of reggae, we had a lot of ganja money, a lot of cocaine revenue, illicit dollars that were being pumped into reggae shows. People can talk to you about that history. And that's not unique to reggae. If we look at R&B, you see the mafia involvement. The music industry in general has always had an underworld component in terms to how, and it's not talked about enough. But the problem with us is we never transitioned because we didn't have that major label system that came in to supersede the mafia money. So when that drug money dried up, we've not recovered even up to now from that slump. So we used to pay the artists 40 grand and things, and the artists are still charging these things when the pulling power that they have to fill a venue is not commensurate with that. We're still marketing our dances like it's 1970. We build a flyer and we drop it off at the Coco and the party shop, and them think that we're still on that vibe. We haven't, I watch Live Nation come in and take over the reggae industry. I was working with promoters at the time. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. So, what they used to do, they would hire the reggae promoters to fill the venue, taking your email list slowly but surely, because when the people are buy the tickets, they're collecting the information. They were building their own marketing apparatus until they were giving the promoters less and less until they just cut them out. They were marketing their own shows. I saw that transition happen in real time. So we have not, and most of the promoters have not been aggressive in terms of building an email, building an online community, building that tribe to ensure that they have that direct-to-consumer relationship that would ensure that their brands stay viable. And I think the brands that are still surviving are the brands that did do that do have that that cultish kind of following that allows them to put out their flyer and people invest before the lineup is even announced in some cases. But those who are just take your mortgage money and me love them artists. You ever hear Highway new song, it bad me I go put it, you know what I mean? And you build a show, but you don't have no kind of demographic analysis, you don't know nothing about marketing. You know what I mean? You and your brethren, them a do a thing, and the Caribbean Social Club open, and you have a brethren over there. So, and we survive like that for a time, but that luxury, we can't even get visas now because of the infrastructure now. You have to be at these quote unquote reputable venues, which are now being controlled by the Live Nation, by the Boweries, by the big wigs in the different markets. So for us, it's hard to, as our local promoters, our diaspora promoters have been locked out for the most part of the touring market content of our music. We were the rebel music, we were dangerous, and that has a draw in and of itself. You would fill a stadium. Bob Marley, when he was, yes, now it's kind of mainstream, but remember when Bob Marley was there filling stadiums, he was counterculture. It was revolutionary, so people wanted to see, who is this man talking them thing here with this big Ethiopian emperor side of him, and this is unprecedented. I find now our artists, what I say is a lot of them want to stay in the gray area. So I don't offend nobody. I'm just trying to please everybody. The hippieization of reggae music. So by trying to please everybody, you please nobody, because I can get the alternatives. And who has done that excellently is the Cali Roots movement. They make that palatable reggae for everybody. But guess what they have on our people? They're in a white packaging. So it's very friendly to the consumer base that's been trained to spend. Our demographic doesn't spend, you know what I mean? But we will spend if it's something that is a spectacle. So when we look at the rise of Sizzla Kalonji, when we look at the rise of Anthony B. Capleton, these people were pulling out, during that period, Garnet said, they were pulling out crowds. When we look at the beginning of the reggae revival, they were starting to pull out crowds because they were, but when the things start go down now into the gray area and you're trying, and I understand both sides, I want to be clear. You want to keep your band going. You don't want to be offensive because you want to keep the bookings and the fight of certain communities and these things and these practical, but this is where faith, courage, and determination comes in. Where you lose a market, you can gain another market because you hold true and you have that, again, that cutting edge By trying to please everyone, sometimes you please no one. Everybody has their own team, and every team has its various advisors that are going to give you the conventional wisdom. Rastafari, let me talk about Rastafari, doesn't fit into conventional wisdom. It shouldn't work in a mainstream society that is geared toward hedonism and the pleasure principle. Rastafari, that's preaching self-discipline, black liberation, fundamental freedom, repatriation. These things are, by conventional wisdom, they're very niche. But what we see again, Robert Nesta Marley, by really leaning into his niche, he now becomes something that everybody wants to see because it's different. And that's what they have to overstand. Faith in Rastafari will bring you that global success. It's not an easy road, it's a harder road. Look at Burning Spear, these artists. What are the songs in their catalog that people want to hear? It's these revolutionary songs from that time. Even love, black love right now is revolutionary. So even if you just want to stay up on the black love side and the black family side, that's still revolutionary. So don't think I mean it to say, it has to be something, look at one of my favorite songs is Chronic's Majesty. And that the visual and the song to I, that is super revolutionary to I. You know what I mean? So by staying on that page and delivering, and then the other part that they had that was really magnifying was the unity. And I know all of these brethren, I want to make it clear, I know all of them. And I would encourage them, if I see them and I could sit with them, the same reasoning, I would encourage them to return to the basis of Rastafari. And you see Kabaka had the song, The Calling, they returned to that and it worked. So I think that for all of the younger artists, because there are artists now behind them that are coming. And this is the thing, my brethren Dottie Bookman coined a term, the reggae revival. But there's always been uprisings, there's always been waves. I talked about the Sizzler, Garnet Silk, Capleton, Anthony B. Luciano. That was my wave when I was a youth coming up, when I was putting on my covenant. You know what I mean? So that was the same phenomenon that was happening when the reggae revival. Before that, there was another, you had Sugar Minot, you had other, so there's always been these successive waves coming out of Jamaica, and there will be another one that comes, because that is just Jamaica's blessing. When one stop doing what they're supposed to do, His Majesty will rise up another. So it shows you it's not the artist, it's the message itself that looks for a vehicle to take that message globally. And whoever holds on and hugs on to that message gets the blessing of global renown. And this is one way we know, and we don't have to be convinced about the power, the divine power of His Imperial Majesty. Because those who glorify Him in truth and in rights, they never see them begging for bread. They're on tour all of the time. They're doing what they have to do because there will always be someone thirsting for that message. It so happens right now that a lot of that thirst is coming from the African continent. How many are trying to tap into that wellspring of potential? If you're just doing it to follow convention or please the mainstream, you're just going to focus on Europe and America. But if you had that revolutionary spirit and you are willing to invest, because touring Africa may mean you need to invest some of your own resources to make it work. But long term, this is where Rastafari artists should be moving. And that's because, again, what is our niche? Is that revolutionary, speaking truth to power, uncomfortable conversations, the things that Africans couldn't say in their own country, that were coming out of the island of Jamaica. That is what made us powerful to Africans, and that is why wherever you go in Africa, Jamaicans have that esteem, is through the music and largely through Rastafari music. So if we're not playing that role in the ecosystem anymore, we're going to lose market share naturally, because if it's not that, if I'm going to just want party, then I'll listen to Afrobeat, because Afrobeat have that happy kind of vibe and it's going to make me party. And the Rastam are not making party music. The dancehall is no longer making good party music. They're making trap dancehall. They're trapped in the lower chakra vibration, low frequency vibration. Trauma music, I call it. So if I'm not going to fulfill that role in the ecosystem, I'm going to lose. And this is why, again, I would implore all of my brethren, young artists to just hold fast. It's a longer road, it's a harder road, and we can't sugarcoat that. But in the long run, your legacy, your catalog is going to be more valuable by sticking to the blueprint or the black print that was laid by our elders. Look at Culture, you know, a man that could have toured for his whole life on the continent, full up stadiums. You know, he was singing Rastafari music. Who are the artists right now singing about repatriation if we're looking at the young generation? When's the last time you heard a repatriation song that piqued your ears? Look at what young Sizzla Kalonji, 96 to 2000, which I would argue is one of the greatest, if not the greatest songwriter that Jamaica's ever produced. I still feed on 96 to 2000 Kalonji.
But Sizzla still performing 96 to 2000 Kalonji.
Those songs can never go anywhere. You understand? But if we correlate with the young artists, who's giving us? I first heard about Melchizedek through Sizzla Kalonji. So, and this is why you see I start the Lion Voice Network, because we can't sit down. I had the blessing of being grounded by Rastafari elders, Bongo Watto from Augustown, Bongo Shefan, Ras Iris, Bongo Ras Marcos, Ras Pido, Mama Baby. I can call elders all day that I was able to sit at their feet and to listen and to be grounded. I was able to go chant Nyabingi. My daughter was sanctified at Scott Pass Nyabingi Center by elders that are no longer here. You know, so I was able to, you know, my grounding in Rastafari is going to be different than a brethren who listen to some songs and say, you know what, this is a nice liberty, and read some books and thing, you know what I mean? So we're not having that exchange of knowledge. And what I realize is that my generation, I come from a generation we don't turn on camera. And Nyabingi, I had to train myself, you know, and even people accost me now, why are you always on camera? I had to train myself to say, you know what, we have to put things on camera, because the young people are not going to ends out with no elders right now. You know what I mean? You have to go on the mediums where they are, so that they can get the teaching. Even though I say I know all of these artists, there are very few that I've been able to sit down and really ground with and reason. So they may just see me and say, yes, Raz, but they haven't been able to pick my mind or know about the history of Ethiopia. This is why I wrote a book, and this is why I'm writing the history of His Majesty, because most of them might not have the time or might not know the source material to inspire them. Because as you said, these elders were planting the seeds in these artists. Bob Marley used to go on Nyabingi down a Bakawal. You know, our elders told us they used to see a young Bob as a ballad come, and he would be there, you know. So he was singing when he's talking about Jump Nyabingi. And these are lived experiences that he's able to talk, and you feel it in the music. It's a livity. If I'm just on the internet, on the computer, that's also going to come out in my music. So we have to be able to feed, and I'm part of Generation X. You know, I was born when the 2/7s clash. You know what I mean? So I think it's so important for our generation, because we're the bridge generation. We're the last generation that got to sit with the elders at their feet. Most of them no longer exist. So I think we have a responsibility, and that's why I'm not so hard. A lot of people, you know, they think I'm soft on these younger artists, but I defend them, because I also, the same thing like, you know, I don't ease up the fire either. But I also have to be balanced in my assessment, because I also overstand. They did not, you know, most of them never been to a real bingy, sleep on a piece of board, feel strong, you know, eat roast bread food and them thing there, and, you know, which I go through them experiences. One of the things that I am confident, and why I don't have to really I can be balanced in my assessment, is because life is going to beat up anybody who, when you take on Rastafari, even if you think it's a joke, and this is why so much people you see with locks and then them trim and them gone, because it's not an easy way of life. Even if you think, and a lot of them are in that season of life where they're being tested. Do I really stand for this? And some of them may not make it. Ultimately, we don't know what history has to unfold. I've seen many trim, and when you see them, I mean, look at soldiers of Jah Army who I come up with at the Nyabingi house with these brethren, go at them yard, and they just change to soldiers. Because why? The job was rough. You know what I mean? When you step in at this shoe, if you're not really defending it and you really have to inquire about it, you know what I mean? you're going to have to make a decision. So all of these artists will be tested and, do unto others as you would want done unto the eye. So I want to be there as a big brother to, when they're ready, we're here doing the work. You know what I mean? So they have somewhere to plug in, because I wish I had that as a young Ras, that I had more institutions or things that I could have plugged into. And that, I think, is our job, as youthful ones, but as ones who, again, are that bridge, who got to see the last of that kind of golden era where the elders them were there and fit and strong, and we were able to see them administrate in the ISIS. And this is across all of the mansions of Rastafari, whether it be 12 Tribe, Naya Bingi, Bobo Shanti, we're all in the same predicament. I'm a Naya Bingi man, trained in the Naya Bingi, the Kete, Funde, the bass. I can play all of these. I was trained by our elders. Going to Jamaica, traveling to Jamaica to different Bingi campsites, spending the time in a tent, doing all of these things and taking the time to learn the levity from that original perspective, grounding with one's like a Ras knife, you know what I mean, and going through them campus and different things. I was able to do that, but a lot of these youths, again, have not. But we want to be here. We don't want to be elitists and just burn a fire upon them and then we're not there, because they're human beings. A lot of them, when they started, had no children. They're at the age now they're all starting to have children, and life is real, So we have to make allotment for that. And this is where, again, I come into theory versus practice. A lot of the people burning them, if you put those people in the same position, them do the same or worse. And I've seen that too. You know how much crocus bag man I know right now, when you check them, they're in a gold chain and gold teeth and whole thing. You would have never known, said they were barefoot, ayabongo man. But it was just for a time. They used to burn up everything. You know what I mean? So you cannot be too, you have to, I find in this chart being balanced is the best way to move forward, because and that's the life that Haile Selassie lived, and this is why he was cussed, because you can't please everyone. And sometimes if you're a bridge builder, you're gonna have people from that side hate you, you're gonna have people from that side hate you, but the balanced people, the hope is that there will be a bridge for them to walk over so we can actually get things accomplished. And that should be the ultimate aim. And that is what I have done in my chart, establishing the Association of Rastafari Creatives as a trade association. So an institution is there and most of these artists know about it, and they're kind of watching to see what's going to happen with it. But we continue to grow, we continue to prosper. So when they're ready to do the actual work for build institutions within Rastafari, they don't have to come start from scratch. There's a bridge that's there. You have Rastafari TV, you have other platforms that are there, same way, that we work with and we collaborate with to build this infrastructure, so that when the Rastafari movement and the youths them are ready to step up and do some work, there will be infrastructure there for them to inherit.